Ladies and gentlemen of the media, allow me to start by apologizing to you for the delay. We had requested to push our media briefing from 12 to 1. However, we did receive a response from you, which was that you had other commitments beyond this. So we're then forced to come here before that time, which is 12:30. So I just thought I should apologize on behalf of this team. Here you see members of the security cluster. The Minister of Police is here, Minister of State Security, the Minister of Home Affairs, Minister of Justice, and they are all here together with their deputies. The deputy ministers are also here. Colleagues, we are here today to really just give a brief and update on interventions and progress which has been made to address the recent violent incidences. This talks to both incidents of violence, some of which have been interpreted as xenophobic attacks, but also incidents of gender-based violence. Just to remind all of us that the President addressed the nation last week, and in addressing the nation, made a commitment on behalf of government on some of the interventions which we will make to make South Africa a better and a proud place to live in. Now, you'll recall that at a time when the President was addressing the nation, earlier on he had addressed a group of young people from various universities who had gathered here before Parliament, who were here because of the high rate of incidents of gender-based violence in our campuses. President committed that after he has addressed the nation, that the ministers of security will then come in and explain some of the measures which we will take to improve the situation and deal decisively with the scourge of violence. Many things have happened during this past week. Children, young girls have passed on, and we regret that this has happened. And here we are now. We will venture to explain some of the measures which we will put in place, but also we will be ready to take questions from you. One of the things which we are raising here is that we will monitor the situation as we have been doing and ensure that there is provision of early warning systems on an ongoing basis. That, of course, we will help and give all the support to the police in the identification of suspects, which will result in speedy arrests. That, of course, we would like to assure the members of the public that intelligence agencies are working day and night to detect and prevent the occurrence of these violent incidents. And of course, we know now that a lot of these already have been nipped in the bud because of the early warning systems that we have received. We continue to put a lot of emphasis on intelligence-driven investigations, equally in intelligence-driven operations. And therefore, because of that, we're trying as much as is possible to avoid a situation where we arrest wrong people and leave out the perpetrators of violence. A committee will be set up by the South African Police Service and the National Prosecution Authority to look at all cold cases which relate to sexual offenses and gender-based violence. In addition, the South African Police Service has committed to training more female officers to deal with victims of violence and crimes against women and children at station level. This, of course, we believe will go a long way in ensuring that victims are not subjected to secondary victimization. In fact, there is a proposal that it's about time that we have one-stop shops. In the event a victim of sexual violence reports such an incident let's say, reports to a hospital or a clinic, that the police will be there, that those who will be testing DNA will also be there, so that we don't have secondary victimization of women. So the woman doesn't move from hospital or clinic to a police station and then to a pathologist. All of those things should be done in one center. We have noted high levels of sexual offenses at institutions of higher learning. And to address this matter, the Minister of Police has been tasked to convene all vice-chancellors to reassess campus security. And of course, the Minister of Police will be working closely with the Minister of Higher Education. Furthermore, victim support and services will be strengthened. The NPA and SAPS have been instructed to review and update the anti-rape and sexual gender-based violence policy. I'm sure a number of the things which we are saying here are issues which we are already familiar with, because if you looked at the black cards last week, a lot of what we are saying, amongst others, is to deal exactly directly with some of the things which were raised by those who were demonstrating in the streets last week. To date, government has in place 92 sexual offences court, and 11 will be finalized by the end of this financial year. We are aware that the Minister of Justice will be opening a court in Limpopo this coming Friday. This will ensure that matters which relate to top sexual offences are dealt with speedily by the justice system. That's one of the issues which have been raised, that it takes us too long to investigate and conclude cases of sexual violence. And a number of people have come forward to say we should consider no more than 30 days in doing that. But these are some of the issues which will be dealt with by the Minister of Justice as to he'll canvass it with the judiciary and see if in fact it is practically possible for us to do this. We'll review laws to ensure parole is not granted for people who are convicted for sexual crimes. And that, of course, when you are charged for sexual crimes, that in fact there should be stricter bail conditions which apply to this category of people. We are committed to engaging the affected communities to find lasting solutions to crime, violence, and drug trafficking. We would further like to appeal to the communities to partner with law enforcement agencies and community organizations to make sure that our country is safe, peaceful, and prosperous. We have moved swiftly to restore peace and stability in Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni, and Tshwane CBDs. The following interventions have been implemented immediately. Over 170 people have been arrested due to intelligence. We were able to contain violence and criminal acts within the trucking industry, including other illegal elements. Protests against the hiring of foreign drivers in the logistics and trucking center mainly affected N2 and N3. Routes between Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal were also affected. We've renewed our commitment to fighting fraud and corruption within the law enforcement sector as a whole to ensure that those who are responsible are brought to book. We are working with embassies from different SADC member states and all other countries to assist those who want to return to their countries of origin. Following threats of violence planned for the 1st and 2nd of September, a joint ministerial team made up of Ministers of Employment and Labour, Police, Transport, Home Affairs convened an urgent meeting in order to map a way forward. Ministers of Transport, Labour, Police and Home Affairs agreed that the criminal acts of road blockades and burning of trucks and assets amount to economic sabotage, threatening the economic viability of the SADC region. These acts, spearheaded by criminal elements who are responsible for the intimidation and killing of truck drivers in this sector. There's been continuous multidisciplinary integrated consultation with representatives in the trucking industry as well as with communities through various community structures to bring stability. Close to 700 suspects have been arrested, some as early as the night of the 1st of September, where there were flare-ups of violence in the CBD. The charges for the arrested suspects range from public violence, arson, malicious damage to property, theft and possession of stolen property, possession of unlicensed firearms and ammunition, attempted murder and murder, business robbery, and contravention of the Gatherings Act. Criminal intelligence, as I've indicated earlier on, has been providing ongoing operational support through the submission of these early warning systems. Incidents of violence flared up but quickly dealt with by police around Jeepistown and Hillbrow. 2 people died on Sunday, bringing the total amount of fatalities to 12, 10 of which are South Africans and 2 are foreign nationals. Law enforcement will ensure that the authority of the state is not undermined. Any attempt to undermine the authority of the state will be met with severe consequences. An attack on law enforcement authorities is an attack on the state. Law enforcement agencies will increase and maintain visibility in all volatile hotspots. The South African Police Service will continue to act against any acts of lawlessness, irrespective of whether a person is a South African or a foreigner. There will be continuous inspections by the different law enforcement agencies countrywide to ensure compliance with the laws of our country. We believe that South Africa is not a xenophobic nation. Whoever is found on the wrong side of the law should be dealt with. Hundreds of foreign nationals took refuge at police stations after coming under attack. 755 such persons are currently housed for safety at D.H. Williams and Chulu community centers in Katlehong. The numbers are made up of 527 adults and 227 children. Processes are underway of offering humanitarian assistance as well as to reintegrate them back into the communities. When we engage in the question and answer, we will be able to take questions on that matter and provide you with more information about Katlehong in particular. While there's been a significant decline in the number of incidents, police forces remain on high alert and are closely monitoring all these hotspots to ensure that further violence does not erupt. Undocumented foreign nationals who were in the country illegally. These deportations happen regularly, following the prescribed legal processes. At the same period, we've charged 1,048 employers for breaching immigration laws, and more than half of these, which is 524, are in Gauteng. With regards to hiring of undocumented foreign nationals, we will clamp down on private business owners who do not abide by the labor and immigration laws. As I said, Home Affairs, Police, and Labor will intensify inspections. The Department of Home Affairs is preparing to implement the pilot phase of the Border Management Authority shortly after the bill has been finalized through Parliament. We believe this will improve the security of our borderline and facilitate easier movement of people and goods through our ports of entry. The South African government will continue to contribute to the promotion and maintenance of peace and security in our continent. We will increase our participation in conflict resolution and peacemaking and peace building at regional and continental levels. As a government, we are willing to endorse mechanisms which resolve regional and resolve continental conflicts. We appeal to all communities to use proper channels to express their grievances and to protest peacefully. Community protests must not be influenced by criminal elements who distract the communities from expressing their genuine concerns, their genuine grievances. Misinformation and fake news remains a key area of concern. I repeat this. Misinformation and fake news remain a key area of concern, as we have seen some of the pictures which are circulating, and these ministers here, we will talk to that matter. We appeal to South Africans to be vigilant in sharing and posting all false messages, videos, and pictures that exaggerate the real situation on the ground. These acts are both illegal and damaging to the reputation of our country and the conduct of its citizens. In conclusion, the Justice and Crime Prevention Cluster would like to extend its sincere condolences to all the families, friends, and colleagues of those people who have lost their lives in the recent violence. I end. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Ladies and gentlemen, before I open up for question time, I would like to indicate to you that The Minister of Defense, who's the chairperson of the cluster, is accompanied by Minister Pele, Minister Lodlo, Minister Namula, and Deputy Minister Matale, Deputy Minister Kodwa, Minister Mutwaledi, and Deputy Minister Nzuza, and Deputy Minister Jefferson. They are all with us today. I think in Cape Town, I'm informed that the Commissioner of Police is there, and together with the Commissioner of Prisons. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, welcome. I will open the floor for questions. I'll take 3 questions at a go. We'll start with the front row. Thank you. The lady at the front.
Achim Chana from Newsroom Africa. I've got 2 questions. The first one is, what is this committee or this cluster doing to expedite the issue around missing persons? And secondly, the chief whip of the ruling party said yesterday that they're working on a process where they want to make the list of sexual offenders public. Do we have dates? Are you working on this matter? What is the progress with regards to that? And also, the third question, the sexual offences courts. I know the Minister of Justice is going to Limpopo, but they also spoke about mobile sexual offences courts. What is the update with regards to that, the implementation, and the dates?
Thank you very much.
Chantal Presence from African News Agency. I just wanted to ask, the ANC chief whip also yesterday said the ANC caucus, we discussed it with members of the executive and the part of the caucus, were in favour of no bail for accused persons. Does this mean that the ministers, the executive is in favour of due process and the presumption of innocence before being found guilty being done away with?
Thank you, Chantal.
Thanks, Gay Davis, Eyewitness News. Ministers, I just wondered whether you, just in terms of, you know, what is happening in other provinces, because there were 4 trucks burnt on the N7 into Cape Town in the early hours of this morning. What are you doing in terms of monitoring flare-ups or getting an intelligence relating to incidents relating to truck drivers in other provinces? And what sort of intelligence have you been getting in terms of a tribalistic element that seems to have crept in, because there are reports that drivers are being made to pronounce words in isiZulu to prove something or other? And you know, what are you hearing about that on your intelligence?
Thank you, Kay.
Thanks, Wendell from Reuters. The Nigerian government has pushed back very strongly. The president suggested that they want an immediate evacuation. There are reports emerging from Nigeria that there are 2 chartered planes that will be taking Nigerians back to their home country. Are you aware of it? Are you concerned that potential criminals might escape the radar and stuff like that? Just with regards to page 3, you say that we are not a xenophobic country, but the very next paragraph say that there have been attacks on foreigners, and they are, hundreds of them are sheltering at the moment. It just seems that there's an inherent contradiction. I mean, I understand the optics of it all and the consistent message, but you know, there seems to be some sort of prejudice, at least, that's fueling this, and then initially, but then that gets taken over by a criminal element. So I'm just trying to find out now, how do you guys reconcile that? And then just finally, please, for Minister Motsoaledi, is there a total that you guys are looking at in terms of refugees or migrants in South Africa as a total figure? That's including your undocumented. I know it's difficult, but let's say 2.5 million, because there's different figures bandied about. I'd like to know from government's perspective, what is the figure you guys are operating on? And then is that mainly consisting of, let's say, for example, Zimbabweans, Bangladeshis, or something, if at all possible to break that down? Thank you.
Thanks, Wendell. Thank you, Minister. The first round. We're only going to take 2 because the ministers must go back to the house. I hope you appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Starting with questions from Ati, I'll leave it to the Minister of Police to respond. Minister, you ready?
Yeah, okay.
And questions from Chantal after the Minister of Police, Minister Lamula.
The first question about tracing the missing people. That's the first question. First, you must remember that South Africa is a member of the Interpol, or as the member of the Interpol that is made of 192 countries. We have our eyes on all other countries that are members of Interpol. We work very closely with them. But besides that, we have our tracing team that will be allocated within the office of the Interpol in the headquarters of the South African Police here, but also with the crime intelligence working on that. But also working with the neighboring countries. There is quite a big number that is beginning to happen around neighboring countries, especially Mozambique, on moving people from there down, and people abducted from South Africa to Mozambique. There are teams that are working on that almost on semi or permanent basis. Quite many of these people are found. The problem about the outcome of those finding people that don't want to be, that is spoken about that matter. You found the people, and people would say, please allow me to keep quiet on these matters. Once the family of those people say so, you will respect that on keeping their names, even when they've been found or they've come back. Sometimes even don't want it to be announced whether there was a ransom paid or negotiations or they were found. So that's one thing that is difficult to come with this figure. But basically, as I've said, that it is a thing we work beyond our borders with the Interpol and the special team based both on the office of Interpol here and the crime intelligence in South Africa working on those members. So we have the list of those people that are being traced, and we trace them with their relatives and the countries where it is said they are in, but also with other agencies around working together with Interpol. Thanks.
Minister Lamula, followed by Minister State Security.
Thank you very much, Chairperson of the cluster. On the first question on the list of sexual offenders, it's a process that will have to undergo the normal parliamentary processes, because you will know we currently have the list, but it's only aimed at the underage minors, which also has its own challenges with regard to implementation because of the intricacies that we have to follow through as to when do you put the person on the list register, when he is alleged to have committed the offense, when he's found guilty, and all those issues which raises a lot of complex constitutional issues. So that's why the whole process of the list will have to undergo the routes of Parliament, because the other issues that they've also flared up on the initial implementation is the issues of vigilantism. That when you've listed people on the list, what then happens with the public now with the current environment that we have, all those kind of issues have to be considered through the parliamentary process. So I hope it will be an issue that will be handled quickly through the parliamentary process, through the legislative processes of Parliament. With regard to the Sexual Offences Court, as you will have heard the President and the Chairperson saying, we have reopened since 2003, 92 sexual offences courts. In this current financial year, we will reopen 11 sexual offences court, and one of them will be opened this Friday in Sibasa in Limpopo. The mobile courts, it's still a process we're looking into to see where the sexual offences court that we have reopened cannot cover, particularly where you find that there is a police station. We're looking at whether we can't use some of these police stations to quickly deal with the matters, because in some of the areas the courts are far, and for us to conclude that process, we need to firstly consult with the regional courts, magistrates across the country, and also the National Prosecuting Authority, because you will also need a prosecutor for that function. So those are issues that we are going to handle very soon. On the 16th of this month, September, we're going to have a meeting with the regional courts magistrates to deal with that aspect of when can we operationalize this plan. Thank you. Oh, the last one relates to the no bail for accused persons. Obviously, we have to look into what the Constitution says, the due processes, but we are able, the magistrates across the country are able to look into the conditions and the concerns of communities. It's also the same with regard to the current laws we have with regard to parole, that the laws makes it, when a person has been rehabilitated in our cells, you have to use the discretion to give him or her a parole. But the Correctional Services Act allow for the person using that discretion to take into regard the concerns of the communities. So the concerns of the communities are very clear as we speak. They are very unambiguous about the sexual offenses that are happening, and they also want stricter conditions with regard to bails. So that is what will have to be considered at the current moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister Lamula. Minister Lolo.
Thank you very much, Minister. I'll respond to the questions on Nigerians being evacuated from South Africa. There is no government call by the government of Nigeria to evacuate its citizens. What has happened here, and this is through the discussions that we've had at a mission level, diplomatic mission level, with both the High Commission level and also at a consular level, is that a private citizen who owns an airline has offered to evacuate Nigerians from South Africa who want to leave. And obviously there are immigration rules that go with that, so it's a process that will have to go through the normal channels of getting one out of the country. But there is no call by the Nigerian government to evacuate its citizens.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Minister.
Another question? There's another question, yes?
There's a question that repeated me.
Yes, okay. Minister, thank you.
Yeah. No, the question is about the number of, the rough figure of undocumented migrants. It will be a very wild guess. Nobody knows it. We've even tried this at South Africa, but it's not their practice when they do census to ask people about their nationalities. I mean, whether they are documented or undocumented. So, frankly speaking, we don't know how many people are undocumented. Obviously, because they don't want to be known. If you come in not to be known, then you won't know your numbers, because who will count you? If it will maybe help you as a proxy, maybe let me just give you the following figures. The top 10 countries last year where people applied for asylum, we've got those figures because those came. I mean, apply for refugee status. That means asylum seekers who have, yes. If I have to give you, maybe it can give you a proxy figure just to guess who's coming, you know. Number one is DRC. There were 4,014, and only 638 were given that status. Number two is Bangladesh at 3,040, only one qualified for refugee status, because they come and say, I'm a refugee, I'm being persecuted. When we investigate, we don't find that there is any truth in that, because mostly these are people looking for jobs. Number three is Ethiopia at 2,997, 324 accepted. Zimbabwe at 1,137, 43 were accepted. Somalia 1,005, 362 accepted. Pakistan at 1,002, 0 was accepted. Nigeria at 948, 0 was accepted. Burundi at 916, 69 were accepted. Uganda at 590, 2 were accepted. And India at 418, 0 were accepted. That will give you a rough figure of who's coming here and for what reason and how many of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. May I check with Pretoria? Are there any questions from Pretoria?
There was one more question.
Question on tracking.
Thank you very much, Sipiwe. Ministers and deputy ministers and colleagues there. In Pretoria, we have the National Commissioner Sithole and the Deputy National Commissioner Masemola. We do have a question. My brother, introduce yourself and then ask a question.
Development as the Turkish journalist representing IPA News. Dear Ministers, President Ramaphosa has launched an investment initiative. It seems that the recent incident may scare many foreign investors, as foreign media largely covered looting and other criminal acts. First question, how you will ensure safety of foreign investors? And secondly, foreigners lost large amount of money and livelihoods. As a state, South Africa, are you going to compensate their losses? Thank you.
Thank you very much. May I?
Thank you from Pretoria. Back to you, Jacob.
Thank you very much. May I just allow Minister to deal with the tracking question before we get into the last phase?
Thank you very much. Minister, Police.
They're basically, I think, 4 Ns. That would be N7, N3, N2, N11, and a little bit of N4 that were having these problems. We have created a committee, a ministerial committee, that is led by Department of Labour. I think the statement was read on that. Department of Labour, that will be Home Affairs, Police, and other departments to work especially on the trucking industry. The N7 is of the later one. It has been 3, 2, and 11, especially between Mpumalanga and KZN. I think that has been really lowered. But having said so, it has been lifted to a national issue through this committee, and we are working very closely with provinces, especially the Premier of KZN is part of this. The MEC of Transport in Mpumalanga is part of this, for early warnings and quicker responses on it. So we will be concentrating on the Western Cape, especially working with the MEC here, Fritz, who is of the safety. Surely will be also working with the transport on the matter, because these committees are working with the committees formed at the provincial level. We have it with the Western Cape. As I said, that N7 is almost on the latest on these issues. But working on the way that we have been working in Mpumalanga, KZN, and Free State, by the way, the life will be better. And indeed, the chairperson of this committee, Minister of Employment and Labour, has raised the issue that we form the committee working here.
Thank you very much. Colleagues, we'll take the last round. I'll start with JJ then.
Thank you. Minister of Defence, much of your answer relied on intelligence and the spectacular quality of it. Maybe the Minister of State Security can then inform us of any past event in this current cycle of problems where intelligence helped prevent a problem. Because quite frankly, as you know, there is little to no way of actually checking whether anything good ever comes out of state security, because there's no way of checking anything in its portfolio committee. There's no oversight. It just goes money, and we are told afterwards they did well, but we're not told what. So either we must be extremely gullible, or we must put our trust, or we must perhaps do our jobs and ask people to tell us what happened. Even if you can't tell us what will happen or what you are doing, maybe tell us what you did.
Thank you.
I'm Sisonke Mlamla from Independent Media. What are the plans for the Operation Lockdown, which includes the deployment of the army at the Cape Flats? Any possible extensions as we approach September 16?
Thank you, Sisonke. Paul.
Good afternoon, Ministers. Paul Becchiaro from Bloomberg. I know you've sort of alluded to this in the past, but could you just state to us who's been behind these riots? I know we're not a xenophobic country, but geez, foreign people were targeted in all this. So could you give us some more indication of who's going to benefit out of these riots? Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Any taker before I close?
Follow-up question.
Okay.
Also, thanks. Gay Davis, Eyewitness News. Also follow up. It's just on that tribalism question, please, Minister Taylor. And then just on the trucks, I've heard a percentage that some 80% of drivers are employed by companies running logistics and freight trucks. 80% are not South Africans, 80% of drivers. Have you heard that figure as well? Can you confirm that? And what engagement is there with those employers in terms of easing the situation? Thanks.
Ati?
Just clarity to the Minister of Police. I just want to understand, are the missing persons in South Africa only leaving or being taken or abducted out of South Africa? Are you dealing with the missing persons within South Africa? I don't know if you've seen that there's an advent on social media where we're seeing people being posted to have gone missing. So are you also looking at those that are missing within our borders, specifically females? And the second question is, one of the issues or one of the things that the Speaker of the National Assembly spoke about when she was addressing protesters outside, I believe, Minister, you were there, she spoke about a process of training police to deal with people that come to police stations to report cases of sexual offences. Are you working on training police to be able to receive people who go to police stations to report cases of sexual offence?
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. That was the last round. I'm sorry. I will hand over to Minister. Okay.
I just wanted an update on where we are with the red kits.
The what?
The DNA, the red kits, the lack thereof.
Want to go and see them? I will invite you. They are there.
Thank you very much, colleagues. I'll allow the ministers to respond. Thank you.
Will you start? Minister Police?
Where do I start? Because safety, Pretoria wants to know if safety and people are going to be compensated, the foreigners. Let's put this. This question is linked with the foreigners that have been really attacked. At the present moment, we have 637 people arrested, plus 15 that were arrested last night at Thokoza. Mostly with the South African, and there are foreigners that are arrested. And 12 people are dead on this matter. 10 of them are South Africans, and 2 are foreign nationals. We can go and visit the streets, especially in Katlehong, in GP Street, and you could see in Germiston that this narrative to say that foreign national shops were banned is not true. Those people were banning shops. I don't even think that they were looking at them, if they're South African or not. They will loot the shop and ban them. Where I walk in the street, I'm talking, you will find your ShopRite banned, your Pep banned, your USafe banned. Last time I checked, those were South African shops. And we, as the police will come and arrest criminals, we would not really ask them what is their nationality. You usually find about you when we process you. If you are engaged in criminality, we arrest you and later we check. And we don't let you go because you are a foreigner or South African when you have committed crime. So there will be three categories of the people that will be arrested on this matter. One, there will be people that we find on the spot doing the thing. Two, will be some of the people that are organizing. You did ask the question, are there organizers? Yes. Sometimes there are people that organize activities of criminality, and they will use people, sometimes use the foreign nationals on the matter as an excuse as they are doing their criminality. So that's that. If we need to look at the compensation, you'll have to look at the compensation of the businesses that many people that have lost rather than foreign national businesses. We haven't discovered that there is a calculated way of doing that. We have, from the side of the police, discovered that the people are looting the shops and burning the shops. I don't even think that sometimes they know who owns those shops. So that's what we are dealing with. And to us, that is nothing but a criminality. The last question, I think, is from Ati. Ati, we are looking at South Africans that are lost, whether internally or externally. But sometimes we look on the foreign nationals that are lost, given to us by their governments and the people from that particular country. As I've said to you, that the main vehicle of checking the missing people, especially internationally, would be your Interpol. So we look at those that are lost internally, those that are lost externally, but sometimes that will be internationally lost, but we have been given information. So we don't say we are concentrating those that are internal and external only. So that's would be the work of the police concerning the people that are lost. The tracking, the track engagement, yes. I'm not sure about 80%. I'm not sure about that. We haven't found. We have been working with this for some time. What has happened? The statement was read by the Minister of Defence to say we'll intensify the inspections in the depots and in the factories where tracking is part of their work, and there are people that are working as drivers. Led by the Department of Labour, the Home Affairs, and the police. That is happening. But it is true that we have found the industry or the firm where they only employ the foreign nationals as their drivers. That is true. That has been found. But others are quite mixed, and the issue here must be made. One thing that we concentrate on is the proper documentation of those people that are working in that particular industry, in that particular factory, rather than checking the basic of you being a foreign national, but are you documented properly and all that. So we'll continue with that. There are South African employers that are really have a big disregard of the law. Yesterday, fortunately, we did have the meeting with the top business people in South Africa, top CEOs. The Minister of Police did, and we did raise some issues, well understood. We'll be working together with them to correct some of these matters going forward. Thanks, Minister.
Thank you, Minister. Minister, State Security.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think quite apart from Interpol doing its work of trying to trace missing persons, state security as well does that through its foreign branch. And we have been successful in unearthing and finding people across the world. So those details are there, but it's details that are very sensitive that we do not always want to share with the public. You must also understand that we work deep undercover a lot of the time in these foreign countries and jurisdictions, so it's difficult to share that type of information. And then you must remember that we have 3 intelligence outfits, and all of them work together, coordinated by a structure called NICOC. All 3 intelligence outfits are accountable to a committee that has been set up in Parliament as the oversight body. So it is not true to say there is no oversight on the work of state security, intelligence, and crime intelligence. We all account to that Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. We work as a cluster. We provide information. We do not arrest or investigate to that extent as the police would do, and the competencies that the police have are not the competencies that we have. But we do work together. Internationally, we would work with the defense to a large extent through our foreign desk, and locally we would work with the police in providing information on investigations sometimes, but also in tracking some of the issues that you find happening from time to time. You will never know a lot of the time how it is that we have contributed as state security in finding issues that would help the police to investigate or even defense to deal with certain matters. So we are on the ground, we are not overt. I might not be as visible as I was when I was Minister for Public Service and Administration, but that's the nature of the job. But we are there, you rest assured.
Thank you, Minister. There's a question by Sisonke on Operation Lockdown. Sisonke, I'm sure you are raising this matter because you are aware that the Premier of the Western Cape has written to the President, copied ministers, police, defense, calling on us to extend the deployment of the army in the Western Cape. Now, I'm sure you know this, that we don't just take that decision because somebody is calling on us to extend or even calling on us to deploy. There has to be a proper assessment of the situation, which will then make a determination whether we extend or we don't extend. What I do know is that our deployment to the Western Cape comes to an end next week. So we will then sit and receive information whether in fact it is still necessary to continue being in the Western Cape, and if it is necessary based on whatever information which will come, then we will make a determination to stay. If not, then we will withdraw. But remember that for every deployment here internally, papers are prepared, a presidential minute by the President, Parliament must be informed, so that decision obviously would have to be taken as quickly as possible, because then we have that obligation to account to Parliament before deployment. Thank you. The training. Now, there was a question here from Bloomberg, which is who's behind the unrest? Certainly, we don't know who's behind the unrest. Now, again, suppose we had that information as to who is behind the unrest. Would that information be up for the public, or would it be there for purposes of planning whatever operation necessary to prevent that from continuing? So, we end this briefing by appealing to all South Africans to abide by the rules of the country. We also appeal to foreign nationals themselves, whether documented or undocumented, because the reality is that we do have those who are undocumented, to observe the rules of the country. And that if you come into South Africa for business, that you apply for a business permit. I think because these are some of the things which have come out during this past week, so it's important for us to appeal to our people to understand that there will be no tolerance for lawlessness. The Minister of Police did make through the statement that there will be more visibility of police, more than what you see now. And police being visible will mean, of course, an effort to deter lawlessness and crime. We believe that there are elements of criminals who are taking advantage of the concerns of ordinary South Africans. Thank you very much.
Ministers, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, much appreciated for your attendance. Thank you.